The silence in the bar was louder than the chaos that had been there just moments before, a ringing void left by the sudden absence of a laugh that had been the soundtrack to my entire adult life. My best friend, Naomi, was still sitting on my lap, her weight a familiar and grounding pressure, even as a stark, empty stool glowed under the dim light beside us, an accusation of an opportunity not taken. She had looked at it, I had felt the subtle shift in her posture, a flicker of intention, and then she had settled back down, the simple, devastating decision to stay exactly where she was. It was a Tuesday night, the kind of unremarkable evening that usually meant a quiet drink and some shared silence in a corner booth at O'Malley's, our usual haunt in the heart of Austin. The place was a dive, the kind with sticky floors and a jukebox that only played country from the 90s, but it was ours. We had come here to decompress, to escape the suffocating weight of our own separate realities. I was still reeling from the final brutalization of my divorce papers, the signature on them feeling less like a release and more like an amputation. Naomi was grappling with a career that demanded she be a shark, while her soul was that of a golden retriever, and the constant cognitive dissonance was wearing grooves into her spirit. The bar, predictably, was packed with the usual Tuesday crowd of weary professionals and lonely hearts, and the only seat available had been the one I was occupying. Without a second thought, Naomi had plopped down onto my lap, her go-to solution for a lack of seating for the last 15 years. It was our thing. The hour that followed was a slow, anesthetic blur of cheap whiskey and shared grievances. We dissected the failings of my ex-husband, a man whose emotional range was a flat line, and lamented the corporate ghouls Naomi worked for. Her laughter, a bright, unself-conscious cackle that always started in her belly, was the only sound that could cut through my gloom. But then, the bar's heavy front door groaned open, and a group of people filtered out into the humid Texas night. The exodus created a single, unoccupied space at the bar, a vacant stool that seemed to emit its own beacon of light. It was the most obvious, natural solution to our seating predicament. I felt her shift, her eyes flicking to it, and my muscles tensed, bracing for the inevitable. I expected her to slide off with a joke, to claim the seat and continue our conversation from a more dignified position. Instead, she let out a soft sigh, and nestled her head against my shoulder. She didn't move. She chose the uncomfortable intimacy of my lap over the vacant comfort of a barstool, and the sheer illogical nature of that choice hit me like a physical blow. That simple, defiant act of stillness cracked something open inside me. It was in that moment that the crushing loneliness of the past 6 months, a loneliness that even a crowded room couldn't soothe, began to dissolve. I wasn't just a man mourning a failed marriage, I was a man who was someone's chosen place of refuge. The world outside, with its demands and judgments, its hurtful words and betrayals, had faded into a dull hum. In the makeshift sanctuary of my lap, Naomi's presence was an anchor. She was a loyal and true friend whose love asked for nothing but my time and attention. I looked down at the crown of her head, at the few strands of silver beginning to weave through her auburn hair, and I felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude that threatened to choke me. The noise of the bar slowly began to recede. The clinking of glasses and the murmur of conversations became a distant ocean's roar. I could feel the steady beat of her heart, a fragile, rhythmic pulse against my own ribcage. My world, which had shrunk to the confines of a dive bar stool, was expanding again, not with people, but with a profound sense of connection. It wasn't a romantic love, not a frantic, passionate kind, but a foundational love, the kind that supports the very structure of a person's life. I had spent so many months feeling invisible, a ghost haunting my own life, unloved and unwanted. But here, in this ridiculous, sweaty dive bar, with my best friend's weight pressed against me, I felt seen. I felt held. Her silent choice was a powerful testament, a declaration that she would rather be cramped and uncomfortable with me than perfectly situated without me. The struggle I had been enduring wasn't just about losing a wife, it was about losing a sense of value. My identity had been so wrapped up in being a husband that when that was stripped away, I was left with a terrifying void. My attempts to fill it had been pathetic and self-destructive, long hours at a job I hated, isolating myself in my empty apartment, convincing myself that I was a burden to everyone. I had started to believe the narrative that I was fundamentally unlovable. But Naomi, with her unyielding loyalty, was systematically dismantling that lie. Her sitting on my lap wasn't a quirky anecdote, it was a lifeline. It was her way of shouting down every voice of doubt in my head. She was proving that my worth wasn't contingent on a marriage certificate or a successful career, but simply on the person I was to her. If you believe in the quiet power of kindness and the redemptive grace of second chances, please hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more tales that remind us what truly matters. The shift in my perspective was seismic. The despair that had been my constant companion was now fighting for space against a burgeoning hope. I began to see that this moment in the bar wasn't an ending or a detour, it was a new beginning. It was a chance for me to rewrite my story, not as a man defined by his failed marriage, but as a man defined by the steadfast loyalty of his friends. This small, seemingly insignificant moment, a woman choosing to stay on an occupied lap, was the key that unlocked a new understanding of resilience and the quiet, unshakable power of a true and perfect friendship. As the night wore on and the bar began to thin out, Naomi finally stirred. She shifted, and a small, almost sad smile touched her lips as she looked at the empty stool. She finally slid off my lap, her hand lingering on my shoulder for a moment longer than necessary. The gesture was so simple, yet it spoke volumes. "You know," she said, her voice soft, "I saw that empty seat. I couldn't move. It felt wrong, like I'd be abandoning you or something." She shrugged, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "I guess I just needed to be close tonight. Is that weird?" I shook my head, my throat tight. No, it's not weird," I managed to say, my voice rough with emotion. "I needed it too. More than you know." The confession hung in the air between us, a sacred thing. I thought about the miles I had run in my head, the hours I had spent wishing away my pain, and the chance at a different kind of happiness that was being offered to me, wrapped in the guise of a Tuesday night friendship. The door to O'Malley's closed behind us, and the cool night air of Austin was a jolt to the system. The streetlights cast long shadows, and the sounds of the city seemed to welcome us back. I looked at Naomi, her face illuminated by the soft glow of a street lamp. The future, which had looked so bleak and insurmountable just hours before, now seemed like a landscape of possibility. The emptiness I had felt was not a void to be filled with another person, but a space to be filled with a richer understanding of myself and the value of the connections I already had. In her unwavering loyalty, I had found the blueprint for rebuilding my life. It wasn't about finding a new partner, it was about acknowledging and nurturing the profound love that had been sitting on my lap the entire time. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to leave a comment, share this video with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe. Before you go, I want you to comment one word, loyalty, a single word to honor the quiet heroes in our lives who choose us when they could easily choose something else. My best friend sat on my lap because the bar was full. An empty seat opened. She never moved. And in her refusal to shift, she didn't just occupy a space on my lap, she carved out a permanent sanctuary in my heart, teaching me that sometimes the most profound acts of love are the ones that require absolutely no words at all.